The recent appearance of the ghost ship Adamastor in the bubble has sparked a lot of questions and a lot of puzzles. A lot of the puzzles has been solved, but some haven't. Today's video is sponsored by SecretLab. We all strive for the best possible gaming experience, but the importance of a good quality chair is often underestimated. SecretLab produces some of the most comfortable and high quality gaming chairs you can get. So upgrade your commander chair today and fly in style and comfort. Follow the link in the video description to their store, type in your height, your weight, and it will tell you which chairs fit you for the best possible seating experience. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous with Down to Earth Astronomy. Today we're gonna go over everything we know so far about the ghost ship, the Adamastor. We're gonna go over how you collect all the clues and how you solve at least the ones that we know of. That of course means this video will indeed be very much filled with spoilers. So if you wanna go and solve this yourself, then I suggest you find another video. However, if you wanna get yourself up to date with everything we know and definitely also the mysteries that are still out there that we haven't solved, then stay tuned. Now, the first bit of information comes from this Galnet article saying that a ghost ship has arrived into Chok-chan's system. It explains a lot about the system suddenly drifting into system after it's been adrift for what seems to be hundreds of years, and they was about to collide with the moon, and they had to stop it from crashing into the moon. And towards the end of the article, we get our first set of clues where we have three systems, as you can see here, three HIP systems. That it says that on the ship's route back towards the system, it passed in the vicinity of those three systems. So it passed not through them, but close by them. Now what we'll be doing in this video is we'll be following this ship's journey, because it's actually started in Chok-chan as well, as we will see in a bit, and we'll be following its journey all the way back. So we're going to keep these clues for now. Arriving in the Chok-chan system, it's quite easy to go over to the navigation panel where you will be able to find the ghost ship around 5B. Arriving at the ghost ship, we can log it and give it a good scan with our data link scanner. This reveals multiple modules around the ship, some cargo hatches, crew hatches, a hackable data transmitter, nothing there really. And at the front there is a ship log, as you can see here, a ship log uplink that we can scan and get some information. There is some other things like curiosities around the ship. For instance, all these antennas you can see around that's flashing red. Flying up to them you will hear a bit of Morse code. It just repeats SOS, SOS, SOS. As you can probably hear here. And this seems to be all it does, so there's not really much there. Moving towards the back of the ship, there is some repair foam on the engines back here. Right here you can see these foam patches right in front of us now. These can be shut off, exposing a hull section underneath that can be repaired again with a repair limpets, putting it back to this state again with the repair foam. We haven't really been able to get any usable information out of this other than, well, the engines were clearly damaged and then repaired. Scanning the ship log at the front of the ship reveals the ship's flight plan. Now, this does show us some very useful information. It gives us some information about which star classes it parked at, on what days, and some other additional information about the different routes. And this is the route that we will be following. We can see here that the ship departed on the 26th of October, 3111. Something happened on the 28th, and this is where we hit the first unsolved mystery. As far as I know, we have no information about what happened on the 28th. Something must have happened on that day, since a log entry was made, but nothing remains of that log entry. So it's difficult to say exactly what happened on that day, and as far as I know, that has not been resolved yet. Moving on further, we can then see that on the 29th, it arrived in a K-class system with 11 bodies. It headed to the third body where it found a listening post. Now, this could be interesting to go find that listening post, and that is indeed the first thing we're going to do. But in order to find that listening post, we just know it's a K-class system with 11 bodies. That's not a lot to go by. So therefore, we have to head to any of the local stations in Chok-chan. Here you will find the local news article, Secrets of the Adamastor. This tells of a local private investigator who investigates into the ships and comes across a fraction of the ship's flight plan. At the end of the article, we again get two names of two HIP systems. HIP 39748 and HIP 33386. And we know that the ship passed by those two systems and it was carrying fuel for about 370 light years. So here we have Chok-chan. We have the two systems marked here and here. Those are the two systems that we know it passed by, and we know that it had 370 light years worth of fuel. So we can calculate the distance, or to just measure the distance. We can see the first one here is 121 light years, so assuming it had consumed 121 light years worth of fuel getting to that system, we can calculate how much it has left. Similar with this last system here, we can then subtract that amount of fuel it used to get from the first stop to the second stop, and then we can kind of guess that if it continued in the same direction and had fuel for about 370 light years, then we can begin to look for K-class systems with 11 bodies that are about 370 light years of total travel distance in that general direction. And then we come across the system Sunofei XE-Y C17-7. That indeed, if we open it up, it's a K-class star, as we can see here, and there is indeed 11 bodies in the system. So let's head down there and let's see what we can find. Arriving in system, we recall that from the flight log they said they headed to the third planet, and indeed if we go to the third planet of the system, we can see that there is a listening post. Scanning this listening post reveals this cryptic message. To my knowledge, at least at the time of this recording, this has not been solved. Nobody knows what this means. Nobody's been able to get any consistent message out of this. A lot of different things been tried. A lot of people spend a lot of time on it. But at the time of this recording, this has not been solved. And now that I've said that, there are probably already people who post the video and is currently writing in the comment section that they've solved it, but they don't want to tell because they don't want to spoil it for people. So it might seem like we hit a dead end. Without solving this, well, how do we continue? Well, we know from the flight log that the day after it scanned this, it was heading for an M-class system with a metal body with an outpost on it, and we have a latitude for that outpost. That of course doesn't tell us much. That would be almost impossible to find. Luckily, we do have a few clues. Prior to this event starting, Frontier was posting some binary code on their Instagram account. They were posting a total of 9 pictures that combined can be made into one big picture that can then be decoded. Decoding the binary gives us the simple message, Coalsack Nebula, the stones. He keeps watching the stones. Now, the Coalsack Nebula is a nebula, that's one of the closest nebulas to the bubble, right out here. It's a relatively small area. It's not the biggest nebula. And again, even though M-class stars are quite common, it's a relatively small area of space that can be explored in a relatively quick fashion. And in fact, we believe the message from the listening post is pointing towards this outpost, but the outpost has already been located through a combination of log and brute force, where people have just been exploring around the Coalsack, and they came up with the system Musca Dark Region PJ-P space B6-1. After arriving in system, you can scan the system with the FSS scanner, and then we can head into the system map. What we're going to be looking for is over here. We're going to be looking for locations, and we're going to be looking for human locations, but problem is fleet carriers also count as human locations. So in the first planet here, for instance, there are 16 fleet carriers. You can count them if you want to, but trust me, I've counted. There are 16 right now. And it also says over here that there are 16 human locations at this planet, so nothing on the actual surface. We can continue and say, okay, if there are 16 on the first one, there are 2 fewer on the next one. That means it's 14, matching up with what it says here. On the next one, however, it says 17, and clearly there are not 17 carriers, as this was 16. So this means that on the third planet, there must be something on the surface. And indeed, as we get closer to the planet, we can see that we both have this geological survey, 23B, we have some Thargoid barnacles, there's some biological signatures, as well as a wrecked SRV. Now, a lot of these things, at least the interesting ones, seems to be in the relatively same area, relatively close, so we're going to start by heading to the survey site. Now, as we come down close to the survey site, we do notice, of course, that there is also a crashed Thargoid ship not too far away. There's really nothing to pick up the crashed Thargoid ship. The crashed SRV is right over there. You can kind of see a green haze right in front of us hitting there behind the small hill. And that's where the crashed SRV is, next to a barnacle site. To my knowledge, there is nothing to pick up over there. You can scan the SRV, but it doesn't give you anything. It just gives you either nothing or a corrupted message that just says corrupted message, and that's all. So not a lot to pick up there. Pretty much the same story with the crashed Thargoid ship. Not a lot to pick up there either. the only things that really worth investigating seems, at least that I know of, to be here at the survey site. Now, at the survey site here, you can pick up multiple logs, and we can begin to piece together what happened. We know that this survey site was first established on the 13th. On the 20th, we get the first log entry from the survey team, where they say that they have found something. Now we know it's clearly Thargoid in nature, but exactly what it is we don't know. Some people seem to think it's a Thargoid probe, but I've also seen speculations that it might be a full-on like living Thargoid. You can hear a lot of the logs, and if you want to dive into it, I do recommend you pick up all these logs and listen to them. That happened on the 20th. They send this information back. A week later, on the 27th, they receive information back that they should cease all transmission and await the arrival of the Adamastor that will transport them and the findings they have to a secure facility, whatever that secure facility is. Now, that is interesting if we keep in mind the flight plan of the Adamastor. We know that it left the Chukchan system on the 26th. So that means this message was sent from here on the 20th. 6 days later, the Adamastor then leaves Chukchan and it begins to head towards the listening post. Now, if you open up the galaxy map here, you can see that Chukchan is right here. Down here we have the listening post, and over here is the base. That means that it seems, at least to me, it seems like when the Adamastor left Chukchan, it was not aware of its destination. It also begs the question, if it's flying from down here and over to the nebula, how did it do that, since we know that it had only 370 light years worth of fuel? So it must have refueled somewhere. But the point is, what I think it is for security reasons, they don't want to send the megaship out in the direction its destination is, and they don't want to send the information directly to the ship in case, well, it gets intercepted along the way and decoded. Therefore, I think the Adamastor was sent down to the listening post at the outer skirts of the bubble in a more private location where it could pick up its information. There's also been a discussion regarding flight times again. Left here on the 26th and arrived at the listening post on the 29th. That's 3 days of travel here and then 1 day of travel all the way over here. This is a much shorter distance than this. So it seems like it wasn't in too much of a hurry in the beginning. Only when it picked up its message here, it suddenly sped up and was moving a lot faster when it was flying over to the Coalsack Nebula. Now, again, on the 30th, the Adamastor arrives in the Coalsack. It picks up the crew and their findings, and they begin to fly towards this secure facility. Now, we don't know where this secure facility is, and we don't even know anything about where the Adamastor goes from here. But if you remember, we know where it came from. We can look in the flight log, and we can see here the day after, on the 31st, it says it's currently 1 ... light years, so 100 and something light years away from something. We don't know what, but it's 100 and something light years away from something, where it's entering an A-class system. And we know that something happened to the ship, and it was then drifting back. So if we take those 3 systems that we saw in the original Galnet article, I've bookmarked them here, so you can see, again, we have Chukchan down here, and we have the 3 systems that it passed by. We can kind of draw a straight line from Chukchan past those systems and then filter the galaxy map for only A-type stars. And we come to the system HIP 69200. This system also happens to be 170 light years away from Chukchan. So it is theorized that when it says currently 100 and something light years, that it was in relation to Chukchan. However, it does seem odd that a ship would lock its distance to something that is not its destination. Now, there has been found no outpost or facilities in the system, indicating that the secure facility it was in fact heading to is further out in this direction, further away from the Coalsack Nebula. But again, we don't know how far. It could be that they are 100 and something light years away from the destination, in which case it would be out here, but we have no idea what we're looking for in terms of star class or anything like that. So it's a pretty tremendous task to begin to comb through that area to see if you can find something that may or may not be there. But that is another thing that still is a bit puzzling. That is this secure facility. Where is it? However, it could be interesting to head over to HIP 69200 to see if we can figure out what actually happened to the Adamastor. while we're traveling towards the next system here, I just want to mention that from the logs, we also know that they were experiencing a lot of equipment failure on the outpost after they located that whatever Thargoid thing they have located. And we of course now know that the corrosive effect of Thargoid equipment will damage human technology if the Thargoid device is not kept in a corrosive resistant cargo hold. Arriving in system, we can once again begin to explore the system, and this time we noticed that on the moon 1B there is a location marked as Other. Mapping the moon indeed reveals the location of a crashed Sidewinder. You can land here, you can drive up to it, you can scan the Sidewinder, revealing another log. This shows that one of the members from the research team was on board the Adamastor. They came into system, but she said things have gone worse, has been worse much faster than before, and here I think she refers to that it went downhill for the Adamastor a lot quicker than it did for them on the base, with their technology beginning to downgrade, and things just went bad at the Adamastor, and she had to flee as some of the military personnel apparently are beginning to shoot people on board. So she flees and steals a Sidewinder, and well, apparently doesn't get far before she crashes on one of the local moons. And this is kind of where the trail ends. From here we assume that everybody died, and we know at least that from this point on, the Adamastor was then flying in sublight speed all the way back to Chok-chan, and it's taken a couple of 100 years for it to come back now as a derelict ghost ship. So it seems the Adamastor never actually reached this secure facility, so the two main things that I think is interesting to look into is to try and see if we can locate that secure facility, and the most interesting one is probably that listening post. I've been spending quite a bit of time trying to make any usable sense out of that message. Unfortunately, to no avail. If you are interested, there is already a ton of resources on my Discord server. We set up dedicated channels to this, both where you can discuss with other commanders what you think about it, and also there's one where all the different clues and screenshots of all these different things are posted. So if you want to have a quick reference, quick access to all this information with all different logs that I haven't showed you in full in the video, but you can find all of them there. And otherwise, I do recommend that you go around, follow the trail of the Adamastor yourself to pick up all the information yourself, so it gives a good feeling for what's going on. I hope you found this video useful and interesting. If you did, give it a like, remember to subscribe to the channel, and until next time, I will see you guys in space.